Hey, everybody, coming up on this month's episode of the Work with Purpose podcast, we're talking all about informational interviews. I'm going to tell you what they are and how they can help you on your career journey make a wise and informed career choice by learning from professionals who are doing a job that you would like to do. Stick around. You don't want to miss it. That episode of the Work with Purpose podcast starts right now. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Work with Purpose podcast. I'm so glad that you're joining us on this month's episode. My name is Randy Mahoney Jr., and I am your host of the podcast. If you're new to our show, really quickly, our podcast, we're a seasonal career podcast, and we're designed to give you practical, helpful career advice that will give you advice, education, and encouragement that you can use to work with purpose on your career journey. And we try to take all of that and package it into about 20 to 30 minutes when we publish our episodes during the time that we're in season, and we also usually publish episodes on the first Friday of the month. So we're glad that you are here joining us today. All right, so as we get started with this month's episode, all about how to make your informational interview incredible, I want to bring you this month's big idea, or our 1 or 2 sentence summary takeaway that helps kind of give you 1 or 2 key things to think about as we get into this topic more. So this month's big idea is this. To make your informational interview incredible, you need to know 3 things. Number 1, how can it help you? How can it help your work? Number 2, how can you develop and prepare for an informational interview? And then 3, you need to know what action steps to take along the way. All right, so now that we got through our big idea, let's go ahead and unpack a little bit. What is an informational interview, and how can it help you and help you on your career journey? Okay, so now the first point to kind of talk about informational interviews. How can an informational interview be helpful to you? And let's define what an informational interview is. So if you haven't heard of this before, an informational interview, another way to think about it is that it is a learning interview where you, as a working professional, you are reaching out and contacting another professional who is doing a job that you would like to do or working for a specific company that you would like to work for. And the idea of this kind of career skill is that you contact this person through many different formats, and you ask them specific questions, and you engage in that networking process that you're learning from them. You're learning about this specific career. You're learning about what that company values, company culture is like if you're interested in a specific company, and you start to engage intentionally in your own career development process. So that's what an informational interview is. And it can be helpful because as you engage in this process, you're getting honest and authentic information based upon the responses that you get from the professional you're connecting with. So I would say, in my opinion, as a professional career coach, past experience, teaching and advising about advising others in their career, I would tell you that I think informational interviews are the best kept secret in today's job search for any working professional. I would say that a lot of career mistakes can be avoided if you as a professional, if you engage with other professionals, if you're preparing questions for them. Just because when you engage with another professional and you ask them questions about their work, how they got into that field, what education do they have, and what have you, you get to learn really what a job is like. You get to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly, as it were. It can really save you from jumping into a job too early, or really kind of taking a slow, thorough, and measured approach before you make a career decision. And so those are a couple reasons of how an informational interview can be helpful to you, but also defining what it is. So now let's move into the second part, talking about informational interviews and how you can make them incredible for your career journey, about how you can develop and how you can prepare for an informational interview. All right, so now as we get into the second part, talking about informational interviews a bit more and how you, as a job seeker, can make your next informational interview incredible, I want to talk you through a couple of quick ways how you can develop and how you can prepare for one of these kinds of interviews. And a couple bullet points that I just want to go over really quickly for you. One step that really is involved with an informational interview is you want to research a person to connect with. So you want to use your different internet tools to find a professional to contact. A couple tools that I would say are helpful for this, and this is also coming from my own experience finding and conducting informational interviews. Using LinkedIn can be a really helpful resource for you because it is a professional social network where you can search out specific individuals by the specific job that they have. You can also search for individuals who work at a specific company. If you'd like more of a specific tutorial on that, if you look in the description below this video, you should have a link to our website, WWPcast.com. That's WWPCast.com. Find the button to send us an email. I would love some insight on that. If I hear some feedback from you that you want a specific tutorial about LinkedIn or any other career skill or career tool like that, I'd be happy to work something on that for you. But that's one important resource. You can use LinkedIn to research folks to contact to make your informational interview request. And that brings us to the second bullet point about steps to develop or prepare for an informational interview is you want to actually make your request. After you've found someone to contact, after you have found a professional you want to connect with, you want to make the ask, the respectful ask. So I normally guide someone to have a script of sorts if this is your first time asking for an informational interview. And in your script, you want to mention just a couple different things. Number one, I usually guide folks to give the informational interviewee some context about who you are as a professional. So give them your name, give them some context such as you're a student in college or you are currently working in X role, but you're wanting to ask about this person's experience at this company. A third thing you would want to make sure you put in your script for an informational interview request is you want to be clear about the time expectation. Normally, I guide folks to ask for about 15 minutes, but you could also go up to maybe 20 or 30 minutes of the professional's time. And I would consider having a sentence in your script, whether it's you're sending the email to a professional, you are sending them a LinkedIn message, just giving them a time expectation of, hey, I'd love to ask you a couple of questions about your specific company that you work for or your specific role. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes of your time. And why I would encourage you to put a time frame in your request for an informational interview is that it gives clarity to the person you're contacting about how much time they should expect to spend with you. If you're trying to contact somebody, you're trying to learn about a new job, you're trying to learn about another company, learn about what it's like, they are someone who's got to have a busy schedule. So you giving that time frame just sets expectations, makes it clear from the get-go, oh, I only want 15 minutes of this person's time, and then it just balloons into 2 hours because you didn't have that in your request. And I would tell you as well, from personal experience of guiding folks to informational interviews, conducting these, planning these myself, having that time frame piece is really important as part of your informational interview request. All right, so as we've talked about how somebody can develop or prepare for an informational interview, we've said that first thing, you want to find a professional to contact and really search them out, connect with them. And then number two, we just got done talking about some different ways that you can request an informational interview. And we said having a script can be helpful for you if it's your first couple of times of doing that. And then this third bullet point that I wanted to bring you through was, as part of developing your informational interview, you want to take some time and be prepared for it. Now, how you prepare for an informational interview, it's going to depend on the format of your informational interview. So these kinds of interviews, they can take place in many different ways. I've had experiences personally in my own career development journey of just doing an informational interview through an email exchange. So just some back and forth. If I was going to prepare for that kind of informational interview, I would be ready to have my list of questions, maybe typed out, ready to go, and ready to send to the professional via email. Another format is you could have an informational interview through a video-based meeting. That could be whether a video call on your smartphone, it could be a video call through different programs like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or what have you. In that case, some ways that I would prepare for it would be just like I got finished telling you, you want to prepare a list of questions and consider paring down your questions to maybe your top 3 to top 5 based on the time frame that you have. Consider dressing professionally. Treat it almost like you would a job interview. There are a lot of articles, helpful articles online that talk about dressing for a job interview. Use that as kind of a guide. And I would say if you're unsure, consider dressing a little bit more professional for a meeting like that. Just because this kind of interview, especially if it's an in-person meeting or a video meeting, you're wanting to send that positive message about who you are as a working professional, as somebody who is wanting to learn about a specific job or learn from that professional about the company that they work for. You want to send that positive message about yourself, and you dressing professionally, looking the part, so to speak, can help with that. Other formats that can happen for an informational interview is that it might take place over a phone call and that it also might take place through an in-person meeting. With a phone call, I would say you would want to make sure that as you are in the phone meeting with the professional, that if you are taking notes and following your list of questions, you want to just make sure that they're aware that that you are taking notes. So you might verbally say that. If you hear some silence on the phone, I might just be taking bullet points of your responses. So just be aware of that. And then if there's anything different that I would add to the in-person meeting for an informational interview, it would be continue to dress professionally. But the second thing that I would add would be if you are usually meeting a professional for an informational interview in person, you might choose a place that's kind of neutral, like a coffee shop or a diner or something like that, and you might choose to consider buying that person's cup of coffee just as a gesture of thank you for their time. Coming up after the break, we'll talk more about our application points for this month's episode, so stick around. We're talking about informational interviews all this month on the Work with Purpose podcast. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, Randy here. I wanted to take a quick pause on this episode of the Work with Purpose podcast. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for watching and thank you so much for listening and engaging with us. I appreciate that and I appreciate you. Also, I wanted to share with you as well in this time that our podcast does cost us something to produce, that it costs time, energy, planning time, and there also is some financial investment that helps us bring these episodes to you. That also helps us bring our career resources to you. So things we pay for web hosting, domain name usage, podcasting equipment, and other expenses. So at this point, in this pause moment of this episode, I wanted to stop and make a little plug here to say that if you benefit from our episodes, if you're benefiting from our podcast in any way, if you find it helpful, if you find it relevant and impactful for you on your career journey, I want to invite you to give to support our work, to give to keep our podcast going. So if you want to take some time and consider giving to our podcast, you can visit our Ko-Fi page at ko-fi.com/WWPcast. Again, that's ko-fi.com/WWPCast. So when you get to that page, you'll have options. You can give a one-time gift of a certain dollar amount, or you can give a monthly gift. Whatever would work for you and work for your schedule and your finances. Also, giving, you can start as small as $5 one time, or you can, like I said, you can give on a monthly basis. Plus, if you do give, I wanted to let you know that we give each supporter, each person who gives, we include their name as a thank you, and we give them a verbal shout out in a podcast episode in the future, just as a thank you for giving and a thank you for supporting our work. So again, if you'd like to keep our podcast going and consider giving, consider supporting our work, you can visit our Ko-Fi page at ko-fi.com/WWPCA. All right, thank you so much for engaging and listening to the Work with Purpose podcast. Grateful for your support. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the Work with Purpose podcast. This month, we've been talking about informational interviews, what they are, and some steps that you can take to make your next informational interview incredible. So we've reached the point in our show where we're talking about our application questions or our ways to help you think about or apply everything that we're talking about in this month's episode. And so I'll give a little reminder. With each of our episodes, we publish an application guide, which has all of these information, any links that we talk about in each month's episode. If you want to get your application guide for this episode, you can visit our website, WWPCast.com. That's WWPCast.com. Also, if you are engaging with us here on YouTube, if you look in the link below this video, you'll find a link to where you can get our application guide as well. Again, that's WWPCast.com. So now let's get into our application questions for this month's episode. Here's the first one. As you think about planning an informational interview, what new information do you want to find out about? I ask you that question just because I think when you think about what new information you want to get or glean from your informational interview experience, I think it'll help you be more choosy, more selective of the professional or groups of professionals that you reach out to. Let's say if you wanted to move into a different industry and you answered this question and you said, okay, I want to learn about folks who learn in this specific industry. I want to learn about what skills or what education I need to get into this industry. That would help you kind of focus or guide your informational interview search to professionals who have those specific skills that you might see in specific job postings you've looked at, or who might have that specific degree program or training program that you're seeing in different job postings. So again, I think that first question, really getting you thinking about what information do you want to learn about from your informational interview process, it can be helpful to you. And then as a second point of application or question to get you thinking about, I would encourage you this way to answer this in the weeks after this episode. In the next month, I would encourage you to consider researching 3 to 5 professionals that you would want to do an informational interview with. And when you have those professionals in mind, I want you to consider writing down their name, their company, and why you would want to connect with them. The reason that I'm guiding you to think that way, and really as you research professionals to contact, listing out their name, company, why you want to connect with them, that's still getting you to think deeper about not just, not just having a transactional conversation with these professionals that you try to contact, but really think deeper and think, why would I want to talk to this person? Why would I want to have an informational interview with this person? Do I want to consider meeting with them to learn about their company? When I looked at their LinkedIn profile, did I like their experience? Did I like their projects that they mentioned on their profile? Again, take a slower approach, more methodical approach with how you do informational interviews, how you research professionals, and the people that you do reach out to. And again, like we shared at the start of today's episode, I would share my opinion with you again. I wish more people would do informational interviews. It's something, it's going to take effort, it's going to take diligence, and it's going to take time. But I would encourage you to know that informational interviews can be something that you can continue to learn. And I think engaging in informational interviews can save you from making career mistakes. All right, well, that brings us to the end of this month's episode of the Work with Purpose podcast. As we wrap up today, I want to remind you, if you like this show, if you found it helpful to you, I would encourage you to leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. When you do that, it takes our episodes and our show and all the great career topics we're talking about, and it puts it in front of new people who may not have engaged with us. If you want to leave us a rating or review, send us a voicemail. If you have a career question, you can do all that when you visit our website at WWPcast.com/feedback. Again, that's WWPCast.com/feedback. Also, like I shared a couple minutes ago, if you want the links or the highlights of what we talked about in this episode, a copy of our application questions, you can get all that in our free application guide that we publish with every episode. To get that, you can visit our website, WWPcast.com. I'll give you a link to get that. Make sure you have that. And then if you want to keep the conversation going, I would invite you to connect with us on our different social media channels. Two big ones that we do use. Number one is if you go to facebook.com and you search for the Work with Purpose community. That's our private Facebook group. That's a really good way to connect with us during the weeks when between when we publish episodes. I usually connect with that Facebook group every now and then to share ideas for episodes, ask early thoughts about, hey, what do you think about if we did this topic or this other topic for later in the season, or this idea or that idea. So it's a great interactive way that you can connect with us. Again, at facebook.com, search the Work with Purpose community. And then this second and last way that you can connect with us, and this is newer for us here at our podcast, is if you go to linkedin.com and you search for the Work with Purpose podcast. That's a way that you can interact with us there as well. We do submit regular postings there for when we drop a new episode and things like that. So again, those two quick social channels, just one more time for you. Facebook.com, search for the Work with Purpose community. And then on LinkedIn.com, you can search for the Work with Purpose podcast. All right, well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening with the Work with Purpose podcast. I hope you found this relevant and helpful and that it meets you right where you are. Again, until our next month's episode, my name is Randy Mahoney Jr., and I want to encourage you that you've been made with purpose, so work with purpose. I'll see you soon. Hey, thanks so much for checking out the Work with Purpose podcast here on YouTube. If you found this episode helpful, if it encouraged you, please click the like button, the subscribe button, and hit the bell icon here on YouTube so that you can stay in the know when we update new episodes and that you don't miss a thing. Also, be sure to check out our website at WWPcast.com. That's kind of our home base for everything. So until next time, I'm Randy Mahoney Jr. telling you to work with purpose.